Over top of the driveline, we have a protective cover with grease point holes. The reason the holes are small is to prevent anyone from putting their hands or fingers close to the driveline. The first two holes are for the pillow block bearings that hold the driveline to the shaft. Each has a grease nipple that requires grease once a year. 2 pumps of grease will do it. These are sealed bearings, so you do not want to over-grease them, otherwise you could break the seals. The third hole is for the U-joint, which is greased daily, and this one you can grease until the grease is visible around all the sides. In the event that you need to remove the cover to access the driveline, there are 4 bolt holes, which removes the cover. This is the turbo steer option available on turbo mist sprayers. The turbo steer consists of 2 swivel gearboxes on top of each other. It allows you to complete a full 90-degree turn with your PTO engaged. As you can see, after you remove the storage chains, watch how the sprayer hitch turns as it would be on a tractor making a 90-degree turn with the PTO fully engaged. Apart from the swiveling, it also allows the sprayer hitch to move up and down for various types of hills. These storage chains are used for when the sprayer goes into storage or to keep the PTO and hitch up off the ground. We will demonstrate how to hook up a 3-point turbo steer hitch. What you can do is use the jack to help position the top arm, because as you can see, as of right now, the top arm is a little short. First, take off the storage chains. What we're going to do next is use the jack and jack up the front of the sprayer, which moves the top forward until the holes align. Insert your pin and cotter pin to secure. In this video, we will be installing the chains on a 3-point turbo steer to the tractor. What comes with the turbo steer option is a set of chains and a couple of brackets. The small bracket is for the tractor side, while the 2 larger brackets are for the sprayer hitch side. What you're going to do is line up the lower arms with the pin. Put the larger bracket in this section and secure it with the cotter pin. Do the same on both sides. For the purpose of this video, we are using our dyno machine to represent the 3-point of the tractor. We are going to install the small bracket on each side of the 3-point for the safety chains to connect to. Secure the pin with the cotter pin. You might notice this pin's too small for the setup and is only being used for demonstration purposes. Once you have hooked up the sprayer to the tractor and the sprayer is level or at the angle that you wish, you can now install the safety chains. You clip onto the top brackets and run them through the lower brackets, locking a link into place at the length you require. A little bit of slack is fine, because if you let your 3-point down, the chains will lock them into position. You can tie the chains away with a zip tie to keep them in place. Do the same on both sides. Hook the safety chain to the top of the bracket and lock the chain through the bottom bracket. The purpose of the safety chains is to lock in the angle, and this avoids it from moving if the 3-point is released. Once we have the 3-point hitch attached, you want to take a look at the PTO angle. Usually you want a 4-degree angle on the PTO shaft, either 4 degrees up or down. With the turbo steer, it will always remain in the angle you put it in. With the safety chains, it holds it in that position so it won't go any lower. Once you have this set, you will use the 3-point from inside the tractor and just set it into position. Also look to make sure when you are setting up your sprayer that your tank is level. This is important for when you are getting close to empty and you want to use all of the water that is going into the sump. If for some reason you cannot make the sprayer level by moving the 3-point arms up or down on the turbo steer, you can also take a look at adjusting your axles to gain the extra 2 or 3 inches. On the PTO, there are 3 grease points, one on the yoke in the front and one in the back. The one I want to highlight in this video is the one that's in the center. This needs to be greased at least once a month, depending on the number of hours. If you do not grease the shaft, it tends to get stuck up and you will get chattering, so it is important that you have free movement in your PTO shaft. However, once it's hooked up to the tractor, it gets hard to line up for the access holes to the grease point. So this is done off the tractor. As you can see, as you start to move it in different positions, you lose the grease point. On the front yoke, there is a cross or U-joint with a grease nipple. This requires daily greasing, unlike the center grease point, which requires greasing monthly, as long as the shaft continues to move freely and depending on the number of spraying hours. The rear PTO grease point on the U-joint, under of which is also greased daily. So the front and back PTO grease points are both daily. After the PTO shaft, you will notice a slip clutch with a grease point just under in here. This is yearly. On the turbo steer, there is a grease nipple at the top of the gearbox, which is a monthly grease of 6 to 7 pumps. There is a set of bearings in here that requires a good greasing. We have 2 breathers on our turbo steer box that you can remove and check the oil inside the gearbox with your finger. The second breather is located on the lower gearbox on the back side. If you can dip your finger inside and touch oil, there is a sufficient amount of oil inside your gearbox. You want to check both gearboxes as they run independently. At the front of your turbo steer is a large nut. After a lot of wear, you may experience a little bit of play. Shims are available to purchase that goes inside of here to remove the wear. It is the wear and tear part that may happen with many years and high hours of use. There is also a grease point here for a brass bushing that requires grease once a year. Same goes for the grease point under it, right under in here. How it works: when your PTO engages, the power is going to travel from the PTO up to the first gearbox, which is going to drive the second gearbox. Just past the second gearbox is another U-joint, which connects to the driveline. If you open up this cover, you will notice that there is a daily grease point. This is now your driveline. When replacing the agitation belt, typically you need to pull the driveline forward. On a turbo steer, it's pretty simple. There are 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are threaded into the frame. This one is not. So you're going to remove the top and the middle and leave the bottom one. Just loosen it on both sides. Then you will use a forklift or tractor to hold the turbo steer up while you remove the last bolt. On this turbo mist sprayer, after we have hooked up the 3-point for the turbo steer and PTO, we want to then lift the jack up, which will put the weight onto the hitch. What we want to do is assess if the sprayer and tractor are going to be level. If your sprayer is not level, you can use the 3-point of your tractor to raise or lower the front of the sprayer. We are using our dyno machine, so we are unable to change the height in this demonstration. But what we would do is use the tractor to create a 4-degree angle on the PTO, and that creating the wheels, frame, and the sprayer as a whole level to the ground.